So now that you understand what the basic container class does, let's talk about rows. Now they're a special way of setting up multi-column layouts. Rows allow you to create horizontal groups of columns. Now think of it as a line break for column groups. When you want to make sure that your columns appear on a separate horizontal group, you use rows. Now, using rows won't make sense unless you place them inside a container type, either fluid or fixed width. It doesn't really matter, but they should always go within a container. Now, when you use the row class, you should always include columns. It really doesn't make sense to create a row container without any columns inside it. Adding a row does get rid of the padding that appears on either side of a container using negative margins. That's because any columns inside a row will need to clear out the normal container padding to align to the grid properly. Now, let's take a look at what it means, although this is something that you would never do in a real layout. I'm going to show you what happens when you add a row class to any container. So we've got the two different types of containers here. And what I'm going to do is add another div here with a class of row. And I'm going to take my content and put it in here. Let's just go ahead and do this for the container class. And you'll notice that the normal container, which this would be the fixed width container, immediately moved the content within that container so that it aligned once again to the left side of the screen. And so actually, if you take a look at Inspect Element in Google Chrome, you'll see that the way that it did that is by, let's go ahead and make this bigger so we can see what's going on here. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I am in this particular container class. And then I'll switch over to this computed section. So what you should notice here is that the container will have 15 pixels of padding added to it. But if you go to the row, you'll notice that it has a negative margin of 15 pixels. That pretty much gets rid of the spacing that was there before. And right now our width is so wide that it's going to the breakpoints. But if we make it really small, you'll be able to see that normally this means that our layout would essentially negate whatever padding was added by a container. That's really important to know because what row does is essentially preparing for the time when you add the columns. If this was a multi-column layout, the columns are actually going to add a little bit of space for gutters in between the different columns and a little bit of space around the layout. So if this margin didn't remove our padding, the layout would not look right. So although you would never do this, just remember that rows prepare containers so that they can hold columns, which is how you achieve most Bootstrap layouts. We'll take a look at columns in the next video.